Hi, welcome. It's Leah Richheimer. We are on chapter 7. Yay! Okay, chapter 7 is called The Empty Bucket. Guys, this is a game changer in your life. You will never be the same after you have this concept in your head. It's such a relief. You're about to be happier than you have ever been. Okay? All right. The Empty Bucket, chapter 7. And what you said is page 149. It's not no page number here, but you get the point. Okay, fine. Okay, the empty bucket. A man pulls up to his house and notices an entire box of dry cereal spilled all over the front porch. No one is around, so he becomes concerned. As he walks in, he sees a pile of soaking wet towels shoved up against the wall with water puddles everywhere. Now he's a bit more concerned. He rushes to the kitchen, and there's flour poured out on the table with handprints all over it. Dirty dishes line the counter, and the garbage pail is knocked over. Out the back window, he sees pajamas laid out neatly, covering every bush. He does not see his wife or children. His heart pounds wildly as he bounds up the stairs 2 at a time, tripping over piles of dirty laundry. He finally gets to the master bedroom and swings the door open in fright. There, as peaceful as can be, is his wife lounging on the bed reading a magazine. He stammers incredulously, "What's going on?" She smirks as she turns toward him. "You know how you come home every day and ask me what in the world I do all day?" "Yes," he replies. "Well, today I didn't do it," she says. This is a classic example of someone not getting the appreciation they need. The question is, why would we have been created with a practically bottomless pit of needing to be appreciated and marry men who seemingly are totally incapable of providing it in the quantity that we need? Sure, they can show appreciation, but they often compliment the wrong things and are woefully inept at knowing when we need appreciation the most. And no matter how much we nag them to appreciate us more, it barely makes a dent. Why is this a problem? Because women race through life with an appreciation bucket that is completely bone dry, and it doesn't even register as a blip on their radar. With appreciation, women can work tirelessly through the night. We become motivated to extraordinary levels, but without appreciation, we become angry, resentful, and totally worn out. And the sad part is we don't even connect the fact that we're sulking, moody, and moping around to the fact that we are not getting the appreciation we so desperately need. The Chazon Ish tells us the nature of a woman is to enjoy finding favor in her husband's eyes, and she constantly yearns for this. Of course, husbands need appreciation, and as we have learned, providing it is part of what we do as wives. But women, likewise, need appreciation like oxygen. But for some reason, no one seems to notice, not even the women themselves. When I teach this in class, some women seem very skeptical, but all I ask them is to please keep their eyes open during the upcoming week, to examine their inner selves as they go about their daily activities, and to monitor their own appreciation bucket. By the following week, during the segment on sharing what they learned from the homework, there is an overwhelming response of women discovering this new awareness. The moment a woman begins to recognize her own need for appreciation, it's as if a light bulb goes on. It's as if she has finally discovered a new secret to her own happiness, and she is bursting to share it. Diminished expectation. The stark reality is men will never learn to appreciate us enough, and with good reason. Think about it for a moment. Can a bottomless pit ever be filled? We are hardly satisfied with the appreciation we receive and likely never will be. Understanding this reality will go a long way toward lowering our expectations. Further, we need to understand that for whatever reason, we are designed this way, and it is more realistic to develop ways to get the appreciation we need rather than it is to try to fix or change our own nature. It's not that our husband is willfully withholding appreciation from us. Rather, men just lack the innate nature to verbalize their appreciation. Of course, men are obligated, just as women are, to develop their growth in gratitude over their lifetimes. But it comes much more naturally to women. And further, women tend to be much more expressive about that need as well. Appreciating you may never come naturally to your husband. I assume you already know this from personal experience. But decreasing our frustration or anger that our husbands don't appreciate us enough turns out to be the very first step toward getting this deep need met, as you shall come to see here. So many wives are eagerly waiting for their husband to finally get it once and for all. For our own sanity, we need to settle it in our own minds. He will never get it. Men are deficient in this trait, so we should stop berating them for their failure in this area. You may have husbands, brothers, or fathers who might be the exception to this rule, but I would still assert that there's a big gap between the appreciation a woman needs and what she gets. It is mandated in the Torah for men to love and honor their wives, but that doesn't mean it will fill up our appreciation needs. Rather than waiting for her husband to do so, her level of contentment goes up exponentially. Ladies, take this to heart and start working on this. You're about to have the best week of your life. Okay, good. What are our questions, Gila?
So Daniela asks, what if appreciation doesn't do it for me? I don't want to just be appreciated. I want all my efforts reciprocated by my husband. That's why I feel like an empty bucket. I feel like I give so much more.
Interesting. I hear. Here's the problem with that. If the wife were to get all the help she needs in the house, which is what I think she's talking about, and he were to do put in as much effort as she put in, but he still didn't appreciate her, I think she's missing the boat. She's got her focus on this, what she thinks she needs, without realizing what she really needs. And, she thinks she needs this. God says otherwise. God says that a woman is a bottomless pit of needing appreciation. I mean, we have many sources that talk about how desperately a woman needs the approval of her husband. There's many sources for this. And at first, when I first heard it, I'm like, excuse me, like, no, I'm good myself. I'm good. But the truth is, the minute a woman starts getting the appreciation she desperately was born with and that she needs to get met, when a woman starts getting her appreciation met, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling how her contentment just goes up exponentially. So the woman who asked that question, I just ask you to look carefully, to start following what I'm going to be teaching you in the coming classes about how to get the appreciation you need. And I think you'll watch the shift in your own life of to more happiness, more contentment, more feeling. If a woman, you might think that scrubbing down the whole kitchen, and you wished he was standing right next to you and scrubbing the other counters, and you were doing these counters, and he was doing those counters, where, that seems like physically like that's what you need. But if you were to clean the whole kitchen and he were to come in and say, oh my goodness, you're so awesome. I can't believe how sparkly and awesome it looks. I'm taking you to dinner. That might feel better. I don't know. I'm asking you to try this on. You know yourself better than I do, but you just might be confused. It could be that having him appreciate you made all the cleaning worthwhile. And there's some cleanings that you do that nobody notices. Like, there's a disgusting, cucumber in the icky, and you stick your finger to pick it up and your finger goes through the cucumber, and then you're spending there a half an hour cleaning the thing, and you got under the thing and you got to find the toothbrush. There are things that, and nobody will ever know it happened. And that's very frustrating. There are other things like, there's this silver thing in the middle of the table, and, and you're looking at it. I should polish that. I should polish it. And then you polish it. And while you're polishing it, you're seeing one side looks great, one looks all, then you finish it and it's sitting on the table. Those are things you really notice, and they're very, very satisfying. So you have to know yourself in terms of what cleaning that silver dish was probably a lot more enjoyable than doing the cucumber chore. Okay. What I'm saying is that when your husband appreciates the silver thing, you're not going to wish he polished the other half because you enjoyed polishing that or doing what, but his appreciation will fill you up like nothing you have ever experienced so far in your life. Because getting that appreciation constantly filled, that bucket filled, with your appreciation bucket filled, it just leads to a level of contentment that you may or may not have ever had before. So again, this is a try this at home activity. Okay, what else you got for me, Gila?
Okay, so Dina asks, I never know how to differentiate the difference between my needs and wants. I never feel fulfilled and my bucket is empty. How can I train my mind to know the difference?
Oh, that's a great question. The best way is to write it all down. There's an exercise that we did in past chapters that talked about, what your needs and your wants are. And it's almost impossible to sort of differentiate them. But if you write down everything you want and need, and you keep making page after page, I want, my husband to stop putting me down. I want my sister-in-law to be nicer to me. I want my husband to be nicer, to say nicer comments to me than he says about my sister-in-law. So, whatever. I'm trying to think of crazy examples, but, or I want a new car, I want a new shaitel, all these things you write down and you keep writing page after page of your wants. Then you go back and say, this is a little superficial, or this is not what I really would like to do. You're sort of circling needs. A need would be something that is really, really deep and that almost you can't live without. Like, I really need my husband to have my back. I'm really done with feeling like he's throwing me under the bus all the time. That would be a need. And you cross out, I need to go to Cabo San Lucas, I need to, whatever. So then you have a bunch of things that are circled that you think are your needs, and then you prioritize them and look at them very deeply. It takes a few hours to do that exercise. But once you've done that exercise and you have a much deeper understanding of yourself, then it's much easier to get those needs met, both because you can express them, and there are ways to do that. We're going to get into the communication course chapters coming up, and there's ways to do that that are, really lead to results. But understanding what you need is really crucial to having that need met. Otherwise, you're throwing all your needs and your wants at your husband, and you're kind of like, think he's a vending machine, and how come he's not making me happy? And nobody could fulfill what you're trying to get, But if you let go of a lot of the wants and only have a few of your needs met, that's true contentment. So it's a project, but putting it on paper is the best way to do that. Okay, Gila, what's next?
Connie asks, I actually find my husband needs a lot more appreciation than I do, although he is better at giving appreciation than I am. Am I in denial, or can this be true?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and everything is personality based, so that's for sure could be the case. I question your it's great if your husband needs a lot of appreciation. You can't. That's your job now. That's believe it or not, even though that might feel like a chore or whatever. Of all the things your husband could want from you, like some husbands need their wives to, bring them their slippers, or they say, oh, mail this. And did it get done today? Did you do it? When did you do it? Did you do it yet? There's some very, very demanding husbands. So as on the scale of things or whatever, if he just needs a lot of appreciation, consider yourself lucky. Okay. However, you giving him appreciation has nothing to do with you getting the appreciation you need. You may think you don't need it, but I invite you to try this on and see if your day-to-day happiness quotient, or, just feeling content with your life and feeling not like stressed and anxious and angry and whatever and gloomy and, whatever. A lot of a mood has to do with woman's getting the appreciation she needs. So it's to try it on, try some of the exercises I'm going to be giving you. And if you find that getting that appreciation and soliciting the appreciation and filling your bucket makes no difference to your happiness, which I've never seen anyone tell me that, but let's say, okay, then, okay, so you can drop it a little bit. But my recommendation is to give this a full try, because I think you'll find it makes an enormous impact on your day-to-day satisfaction in your life. and we know that God said that a woman needs this. So if you don't need it, maybe you're blocking it. Maybe, maybe you had a parent or a friend or a sibling who gave phony appreciation, and you're like, oh yeah, she just wants to borrow my sweater, whatever. So it could be that you have, dysfunctional patterns around getting appreciated. But I invite you to try this on wholeheartedly, because I think you'll be happy with it. You'll try. And let me know if you info@ladiestalkshow.com. Just write me a note and say, I tried it. It was awesome. Blah, 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 blah. Love to hear it. Okay. What else, Leah?
Okay. So it's kind of in line with what you were just saying. Daniela asks, I feel like my husband's appreciation is actually a secret manipulation tool to get me to keep doing everything, and it's not being reciprocated on his end. Am I crazy for thinking this way? I feel like he's sweet talking me when he's expressing his appreciation.
Very good. Okay, so we're going to go through the 6 ways to get appreciation, so make sure that you get the appreciation in the way that you specifically need it. So we'll get there. But in the meanwhile, this issue of how he says it and how you hear it is very, very hard to differentiate. In other words, it could be that he is doing that, okay, in which case there's one answer, or it could be you're just hearing him, you have an inability to take in his appreciation. So let's start with the first scenario, which is he's really trying to manipulate you, and he's trying to, make you have, do things in a certain way, or actually get off the hook from having to do anything because you're doing, you also clean over there, so I totally get that. But let's say he is trying to manipulate you. So there's one way to solve this, and that's communication. It's actually communication is listening more than it is talking, but saying, listen, I have something that I want to talk to you about that I feel a little bad. It seems a little, it could be me. Sometimes when you bring a problem up and you say it could be me, or maybe it's me, or whatever, it softens the blow, so you're not putting them on the defensive. And again, if you have a history in your relationship of having productive communications, that's better. If you have a history of fighting every time you get in, then you have to handle this differently. You might even need a third party to handle it. But let's just say you have a good history of being able to share your innermost thoughts. You were to say to him that, listen, it could be me, but sometimes when you're complimenting me, I know a woman needs to be complimented because I learned that, but sometimes when you're complimenting me, I feel a little bit like you're doing it as a, not to get out of the situation, but not to do less or whatever. I'm not sure. Somehow I feel like you're trying to get me to do more for you, or you're trying to get to do less for yourself. I know that's terrible. I'm not trying to accuse you of terrible things, because it just could be my perception, but sometimes that's how I feel. I'm really not sure what to do about it, because I've tried thinking, no, he's really appreciates me, and I've tried to let it soak in, but I just can't. I figured I should talk to you about it, and I'm sorry. I hope you're not feeling accused or feeling defensive about what I'm saying. I'm trying to solve the problem and make things in our marriage better, rather than maybe don't say in our marriage, because that makes it sound like it's a big, huge deal. So, I want things in this issue to go a little better. What do you think? And then put it in his lap and let him say, and he'll say something like, that's not true at all. I'm doing because I think you're a great wife. You're being ridiculous, and that really hurts my feelings that you would think that I would do that. So you have to know your husband to know what you think his reaction would be. But he might say, it's interesting you say that, because I notice when anyone compliments you, like, the other day when so-and-so came for Shabbos and she told you she thought your outfit was beautiful, and you said, oh, come on, this is so old. And I realized that you might have a problem with getting compliments and getting appreciated, and we need to work on that, sweetheart. You know what I'm saying? Who knows what his reaction is going to be if you say it in the kindest, softest way you can. And again, try not to put him in the defensive, because that's going to go really bad. But that's how you would approach something like that. Now, if on the other hand, it's you who he's just saying, oh, great job with the kitchen, great job with the kids, great job on your contract that you negotiated with this company, or whatever, your business, whatever it is, and he's complimenting you. and it's really genuine. Let's take that case scenario. It's really genuine. And he feels very much like his job is to build you up, and you just can't feel it. So in that case, you need to work a little bit on maybe looking at your past patterns. And, you know, a lot of people like to journal, or if you have a confidant or somebody you can talk to about it, or a therapist or a rabbi or rebbitzin, you know, somebody you can go to introspect about this and say, you know, I want to feel the appreciation that, you know, women need to feel from their husbands. I'm really having a hard time letting it in, you know, and I don't think it's my husband's fault. I think I think I'm really looking at him in, a bad eye. I think it's me. What do you think I can do about it, or whatever? And, you know, looking at what your blocks are, or your past history, what your past patterns are that could have made you be the way that you are. And that type of introspection will hopefully lead you to a place where you can let more appreciation in. And we're going to be learning tips and techniques in the coming shows about how to get that appreciation you need. And so I think once you start to use those tips and techniques, you might not have to do the deep introspection. You look at your childhood, you know, you may not need to do that. So I would sit tight for now. And get some of the tips and techniques first and try them. And that might just turn the whole thing around, God willing. Okay, this is Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show. I'm going to give you some homework. Your homework is, one time this week, when your husband says, you know, gives you any kind of appreciation, anything, you know, like, good job, anything like that, let it sink in. Just feel it and let it sink in. Even if you have to take a moment, kids, I'll be back in a minute, and go to the facilities, go in the backyard, whatever, go somewhere and just let it soak in and feel how good it feels. So one time this week, just let it in. Okay, this is Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show. We'll see you next show.